Welcome to the latest episode of my news thing. Let's get right into it as always. So the Tory health minister has blocked cheaper drugs, which are being cheaper because of the fact that their patents have run out. And he's blocked them, saying that he has got an alternate method that he's going to propose to them. And over the last few hours, he has been talking about that, and supposedly it's a good thing. But anyway, move on. Andrew Fisher, the Labour policy chief, has been fired for supporting other parties, including, obviously, the Communist Party. And this is a massive scandal that's blown up, mainly in tweets and stuff like that. And it was mainly during the time that Ed Miliband was the leader of the Labour Party. Clegg reveals that the GCHQ, which is basically the British NSA, was only known by a few people in cabinet, which is a really terrible thing because, constitutionally, cabinet is meant to be the executive. The entirety of cabinet has equal power, equal roles. The Prime Minister is only meant to be the first among equals with the other ministers. He's not meant to be a football manager. He's meant to be a football captain. If you understood that, then that makes sense. I don't actually watch football, so it didn't that much to me. But anyway, Cameron effigy with a pig's head on his crotch and a Clarkson effigy burned in Lewes on bonfire night, which is quite brilliant because, well, obviously two men that have a lot of idiocy about them, and just being burnt like that, it's pretty good. A lot better than somebody like Guy Fawkes, which supposedly isn't a revolutionary now. Lots of things are coming out saying, oh, he was just an idiot Catholic who wanted another tyrannical reign of Catholics instead of Protestants. But whatever, let's move on. Enough of that history stuff. Obama has rejected the Keystone XL oil pipeline from Canada, which is a good thing for all environmentalists because it means less oil. Okay, the first news story kind of thing is Ben Carson, because he's been doing quite a few weird things this week. He said that Obamacare is the worst thing that happened to this nation since slavery. So he's likening healthcare, which is affordable, to slavery, which is a bit stupid. He's one of the two celebrities who have become kind of front-running candidates, one of the other of which is Donald Trump, obviously, and their want for less debates because of the fact that they have no idea when it comes to politics has caused for more all-round debates because they have been massively pushing this whole anti-GOP thing, saying, oh yeah, the GOP is just full of liberals and stuff. They're not true conservatives running the conservative debate. So now they've called for more all-round debates rather than having less debates as they would have wanted. And the more all-round is basically coming from the fact that instead of the most popular candidates, they're just going to switch around with candidates. And it doesn't matter which candidate or, well, how much percentage of the candidates on or anything like that. So the stuff about, oh, you shouldn't even be here to the less-known candidates won't happen anymore because obviously that's a rule of the system. Less popular candidates should be on the polls. On the debates. And the last thing is another quote, and he said that Hitler would have killed less Jews if people had been armed, which is his massive pro-gun idealism, and it's just kind of silly. But whatever. The Prime Minister of Australia, Malcolm Turnbull, he is the one that replaced Tony Abbott, the terrible Tony Abbott, has abolished the knighthoods, which were only just recently reintroduced in Australia, which means that Prince Charles is no longer a knight in Australia, which was kind of disgusting that he was in the first place. Tony Abbott just brought him in and made him a knight, and that is massive shittiness on the system. They're meant to be a massive... There's this whole Republican thing, and Malcolm Turnbull is a Republican, which is a good thing. Okay, so that's most of the main news gone. There isn't that much to talk about, but the next section, remember the victims. So there's 218,000 more refugees arriving in Europe, which is bigger than 2014 entirely, and that's just this month. Last month there was only about 170,000, which is less than it, but still more, well, still quite close to the 2014's entirety of refugees, which might be hard because that many refugees and, well, not that many countries are allowing them anymore. Germany are forcing them out even quicker at this point, so... And the refugees offshore of Greece who have basically been overturned on the boats and stuff. A lot of them have been revived, however, which is a good thing. Okay, hope. I'll start with what I just said, which was that refugees revived after drowning near Lesbos, which is Lesbos. I don't know if that's exactly how that's said, but I mean, it would just be a bit weird if it was said late Lesbos, because... Anyway, Lance Stewart and Adin Kalansky bought 100 burgers. Like, they went into McDonald's, asked for 100 burgers, and then the person was like, are you sure? 100 burgers? Did you really mean that? And then he was like, yeah, 100 burgers, and then he gave them out to homeless people, which is quite a good thing. Yan Ming, the ex-NBA star, and basically the only Chinese dude who is taller than everybody else in the world, because he is one of the tallest guys in the world. He's bigger than bloody Shaquille O'Neal, who was the guy who played Steel in that terrible film, and he's also a very well-known NBA star. Anyway, Yan Ming, an ex-NBA star, saves millions of sharks via his campaign to ban shark fin soup, which has been happening since 2006, and it's quite a good thing that somebody in such a unhumanitarian society as China at the moment is doing such a humanitarian thing in China. So, anyway, Giel in Belgium has been said to have opened its arms to mentally ill people since the 15th century, which means it's just a town full of mentally ill people getting along, having a nicer time than they would if they'd been put just in a random society and forced to go along with everybody else's rules. The entirety of pretenses and stuff like that can actually put massive strain on people who have a few mental illnesses, including paranoia, obviously, and depression, because depression makes you kind of really tired. So the whole idea of, you gotta get up and work and stuff like that can be a lot harder for people like that. Obviously, you got things like PTSD and stuff, which would be very hard among normal people, because chaos can happen all around you, just randomly in big populated areas. So if you go into a village where not much is happening, because most of the people are trying to find peace with their mental illness, it's just going to be a lot harder if you have all this chaos going on, and you might have random panic attacks and stuff like that, which is what PTSD is about, panic attacks, based off of previous experience in war. Next up, a group of neighbours from Toronto have invited refugees into their neighbourhood, which is quite a good thing, because it means that there are still people in Canada doing even more for people. Obviously, we had the place where they were basically just said, we've eradicated homelessness. It's as simple as just open up the places which don't have any people in them and let homeless people live there. Collide, which is a organisation, has been providing food to pets in homeless shelters around New York, which is quite good, because obviously a lot of homeless people found stray dogs, and they have a bond ship, because homeless people are, first and foremost, incredibly lonely. I mean, it is an incredibly lonely life. They don't want to be homeless, and yet they are there, homeless, lonely. Nobody even pays attention to them. So that's good that their pets are also being fed. Scottish floating wind farm, which is quite good. Rather than just the wind farms, which should be put right down to the bottom of the water, right down into the ground below the water. They're floating. Well, they proposed being floating on a net kind of thing, and that means that they won't have to pay anywhere near as much. They'll be a lot cheaper. And it also means that they'll have just as much ecological benefit. They'll have just as much power benefit. Ireland has decriminalised heroin and cocaine for personal use, which is quite a good thing, because obviously the first step in everything, including in alcohol and all of that, the first step to control it is not to have prohibition. Prohibition in America, as we saw, as everybody knows, this is historical knowledge that anybody who has ever studied history knows. It failed massively, and people just don't realise that's the exact thing that's happening with drugs at the moment. Loads of people are just going behind the government's back and taking drugs and stuff like that. The law doesn't matter to people who are taking drugs. There's a whole romanticised thing about it, and the drugs that are the worst people need to be protected the most from them, obviously. Finally, never mind. I'd read that at the start. So, onto music then. I've got a few things, but not as much as I would have had on other weeks. So first of all, rock as a genre, Pucifier, Money Shot, which has been recommended to me by Spotify, which is quite good, and Arcane Roots, Heaven and Earth. It's alright, it's not my kind of music though, a lot of people will like it. I'd suggest you check it out and see if it is your kind of music. David Gilmour, as in the guitarist from Pink Floyd, has released Rattle the Lock pretty recently, and that was really good. It's not as good as Pink Floyd, but it's still good. It's still got Dave Gilmour on the guitar, playing melodies that are befitting of angels, basically. Kurt Vile, Believing I'm Going Down, and that's B apostrophe leaving space I apostrophe M going down. He's kind of a country-esque and good at the same time. It's a folksy kind of singer, and he's quite good. Yeah, I think he's based around Atlanta or somewhere like that. I'm not sure though, but it is quite good. You should check it out. Standout for rock is the Fratelli's Eyes Wide Tongue Tied, and obviously I really love the Fratellis. I have the CD of one of their, well, what I think is their best album, which is the Costello Music, right here, and it's quite good. On to the next genre, pop. Grimes have released Art Angels, which is a weird kind of thing. It's very J-pop-esque kind of stuff. I mean, if you like J-pop, then you'll probably like it. It's got some weird elements in it as well, so if you like weird elements in music, you'll probably like it. Fluor East has released Sax, and the only problem with that is that the sax sounds like not a saxophone. It doesn't sound anything like a saxophone in it. It's just in the chorus too, it's not in the rest of the song, but it's quite a funky song. It's quite good. Hip hop, we've only got one, which is the standout. Cakes, No Pad, No Pencil. I think it's quite good. I reckon everyone should listen to it if they like kind of rap and hip hop and stuff like that. Electronic, again, we only have one, and that's the standout, which is Zweihander's Hollandel. And Zweihander are like it's just the one guy who's part of Tech Syndicate, and you should check them out as well if you like a lot of tech stuff, if you like listening about tech news and building computers and learning about computers, software and hardware and all that kind of stuff. I'd say that they're the best place to go, better than a lot of other places that I've seen. And he's like the main guy. He has this glorious beard, which is quite good. Yeah, and he's done that. This is his third album. I reckon you should check out the other ones if you do like kind of electronic bit-tune-ish music, but it isn't strictly bit-tune. He does mix it with a few other things, and it's quite good. And now we've got two, which I just wanted to mention because it's their anniversaries, and they've released the anniversary versions. We've got Wolf Mother's Wolf Mother, the 10-year anniversary of that, and Circa Survives Juturna, which is like a prog-ish kind of thing, and it's still quite good. It's a little bit emo-esque though, if you don't like emo music, like proper emo, not Fall Out Boy and that, like emo isn't emotional hardcore. Anyway, so the final two news stories before we end the video is that Snapchat's new privacy policy makes them the owners of the pictures. So this is just kind of a warning to anybody who has a Snapchat. Don't use it for the stuff that you would normally. Basically, don't go around sending dick pics and stuff like that, because Snapchat owns those dick pics now. It's not a good thing for Snapchat to be owning your dick pics, but I mean, if you share them as much as you usually do, which is the majority of people who send dick pics on Snapchat, then I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine with a few people at Snapchat owning them as well. And the final one, which is quite funny and also quite sad, the white supremacy party in the US has been debating whether Jews are white. I mean, obviously, yes, the Jews are a race, but the Jews are not white. It depends if they are white or if they aren't. It's just stupid. Anyway, I hope you all have a good time this week and next week. Well, next week, I guess. Whatever. Just have a good time.